DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Up the wires. I'm old school. I also like saying every year it is our year, and I love this time of year because it's pre-season. The results don't matter so much as what we're actually looking at performance-wise, getting to see a whole lot of players, some new names, combinations, all that kind of thing. First match tonight against the Sharks in Sydney, and who better to catch up with than me old mate, super fan, Zane Inglis, who's been on board since 1995, and check him out on the Warriorholic, which is at Warriorholic. Not only does he talk league, he's got Holic's Kitchen as well, which is just the best recipes on earth, mate, although I'm not allowed to eat any of them because, of course, I look at them and you just put on kilos. But welcome back, mate.
Geez, mate, I've lost 12 kilograms.
Here we go.
Since I started that channel, so you can use that as evidence.
It's when you turn up with the big box of donuts and cakes, mate, and she's looking at me going, turn the screen off. Turn the screen off. And I'm going, look, he's making pies and hot dogs. I'm loving all of this stuff.
I actually made it, I'll have to forward it to you, mate. I made a special salad, what do you call it, Mediterranean lamb sandwich the other day. A nice healthy lunch for you.
All right. Let's talk tonight against the Sharks. No RTS, his withdrawal. How much of a concern is that?
What concerns me is they're a little bit cagey, just saying it's a minor niggle. It's like, tell us what it is. Tell us it's not a soft tissue injury and I'll be okay.
Yeah, because, we lost Roger a bit last year as well. And I know that they've been training since November the 1st. They've been in full contact training and playing kind of in-house games and things like that. But any time that this time of the year you start losing players, it's got to be a worry, doesn't it?
It's the list. So Rocco Berry is still out indefinitely. Jackson Ford's got a niggle. Both Chanel Harris-Davida and Tanner Boyd. Then you've got RTS adding to the list. So we don't have the greatest depth this year in the senior players. So if you're starting out with about 6 or 7 guys not available for round one, ooh.
How are you impressed with you when you saw that team named by Webby and the fact that he has chosen such a strong lineup? Sub part of that question being the positions that he's put players in as well, and your reaction to all of that.
Yeah, I had a bit of a yarn with a couple of my close mates that we're talking about today. It's a pretty full-on addiction, this chatting when you're spending half your life talking about the Warriors on social media, like in DMs. And I thought they would go for a strong team first, which is the opposite. They normally play the young guys first, but just to give them a break. One, because a couple of the guys might play for the Māori in the Indigenous game. Then we've got the travel over to Vegas. So I always thought they'd go this way. What I would have been curious to see is who the halves would have been if all 4 were available.
Yes, yeah, good call.
But other than that, Webby said in an interview yesterday that it's pretty much 80% what you can expect in round one, and it's pretty much in line with what I expected.
So in terms of that spine then, is that the spine that a couple of names obviously not there as you said with injuries, but is that essentially the spine? We've got 3 or 4 halves and they're going to be interchangeable throughout the year. We've got to expect that, but essentially that chance at the back and all the way through to 9. Is that what you thought?
So I fully expected Chance to be there at fullback, and I thought Roger would be on the left wing. I tended to believe he'd go for Tanner Boyd and Luke Metcalf because they're both kickers, but he says he's got faith in Luke's kicking game, so I'm really curious to see how that goes. 13's an interesting one for me. Mm-hmm. A lot of people like Dylan Walker off the bench, but I thought he nailed it for the second half of the season when Tohu was injured. So I'm curious to see which of Clark and Walker start, and this will probably give us an indication on the weekend. And then at hooker, Wade Egan's going to start every time unless my man Sam Healey steps up.
Well, that's right. I was going to ask you about Sam because you reckon that you got big raps on that boy.
Oh, I tell you, he's got a 15-minute highlight reel. The most highlight reels only focus on the flashy stuff, which is for him is running out of dummy half is right up there with Harry Grant. His ability to link with the player and not die with the ball in hand, but he's also got a great left foot kick out of dummy half, which we haven't seen at the Warriors since Isaac Luke. And it shows his defense that he's a tall guy. He's about 1.84 m, which is big for a hooker. He's a centimetre taller than Egan. But he gets down well. He's got a great pass, and he's not afraid to put his body in front of some big middle forwards. So great stocks of his old man, being a Sharks legend.
look, a couple of years ago, and then at the beginning of last year, I mean, he was talked about as a potential Origin player, but then he gets injured, and I'm sure he was playing with injuries all of last season, and he just sort of tailed out a bit. Look, we're going to get that all year, aren't we? And so you've had a really good look at the squad, and you know more about the younger guys coming in because you do study also the reserve grade sides and the younger sides. You mentioned before about a lack of depth. How are we going to cover, Zane, when we do lose our players? Because that's what you have to budget for. You know, Sir Alex Ferguson always used to say that he budgeted for Wayne Rooney missing 4 or 5 games because of yellow cards and red cards because he has a real hot head on the field. We've got to budget for some of our best players being injured. How are we going to cover that?
So when I say a lack of depth, like I mentioned in our previous chat, it's around 8. There's a deficit of around 800 first grade games between last year's squad and this year's broader squad. It's that the one area that concerns me is starting prop. So if we lost, worst case scenario, James Fisher-Harris and Mitch Barnett at the same time, I'm not sure how you cover that, particularly up against some of the big packs. But other than that, we've actually got 3 or 4 players in most positions that can step up. I know that the word is that they're actively out there trying to recruit another backup centre at the moment because they don't know when Rocco Berry will be back. But I'm not quite sure why, because you've got Moala Graham-Tolfra, I think is a genuine prospect. We'll get to see CL Cully tonight, which is really exciting for me. He's been talked up as one of the biggest prospects in the club for a while now, and he plays centre, wing and fullback. So I feel like we've got depth, but it's just that experience that you can't replace. 100 games of just walking out there, knowing what happens on game day, knowing how to get yourself out of a hole. That's what concerns me.
In terms of Nuakore, what can we expect from him this year? I want a huge season from him.
So he's 5 kgs down, man. So many of these guys have lost weight. Tanner Smith is 5 kgs down. I would say Dimitrik Vaiamanga is 10 kgs down. Bunty Afoa is 10 kgs down.
Is that is that because they've been training since November the 5th? Right, okay, right.
On Marata, I'm really curious to see how Jacob Laban goes starting on the edge this week, because is that an indication they feel he's ready after a big off-season? And I think if you can play him for 70-odd minutes on the edge, that means we can use Marata as an impact middle forward. We can use him on an edge. And I really feel like...
totally. I don't want him in the grind. I want him as an attacking weapon.
It depends. I feel like he suffered last year from Sean Johnson not being able to take it to the line. Like in 2023, he was literally taking those hits and he was passing so late that the opposition didn't have a chance to close the gap on Marata. But they saw that as one of their core strike weapons, and they just loaded up on him all season last year. So hopefully with someone like Luke Metcalf or Tamati Martin, they're both really good with ball in hand. They'll take the ball to the line and hopefully give them a little bit more space. So I'm expecting him to have a big year.
Metcalf as well. Well, I mean, we didn't get him last year, did we? Because he was injured. So just your overall thoughts on those halves, and is it going to be interchangeable like I suggested, or do you think he's going to lock into an injury permitting we get to see those guys? Is my long-winded question, is Metcalf going to be one of those guys all year?
I believe as long as Metcalf's fit, he will be out there. Who partners with him, I'm not sure, but Webby did say he's going to pick and stick for the first, probably quarter of the season, and give the starting halves a chance to embed their
and find a combo,
their partnership. Because last year we almost never had the same 2 guys play 3-4 games in a row, and it's the not having those combinations really kills us. So I'm curious to see. Tamati Martin, while he doesn't have the kicking game and he may not be a game organizer, he's probably one of those massive effort players that we will need the experience. He's the guy who scrambles onto a loose ball. He's the guy who's the last one in the picture trying to make the tackle to stop a try. So from that aspect, he's the man. But can Luke Metcalf step up and play that 7 role where he is driving the team round? Webby says he's going to play a hybrid, so they'll both play both sides of the field. Even if Metcalf's at 7, he won't be first receiver. He'll be second receiver with a bit of space. So I love his confidence. He said from day one, I can play 7, I can kick, I can drop goals, I can kick goals, give me this chance. And I'm excited to see. So it all comes down to, can he stay on the field?
What do you want from these games? What do you want from these preseason games, mate? I mean, I think it's the one time of the year where we genuinely can say the result doesn't actually matter, folks. It doesn't. What's more important to me, there are no injuries. That's the most important thing out. But what do you want from these games?
I mean, the result doesn't matter.
Well, the
Yeah,
score
Webby-
doesn't matter. The result
Well,
does matter because you want to see your team play well and cohesive. I understand that.
Yeah, so Webby said yesterday, like in his interview, it's not the end of the world if you lose, but I feel like off the back of last season, it's a trial game, but winning breeds confidence. So
Kempy
I want to
says
see
that,
the
yeah.
boys win tonight. I want to see us beat the Storm if they throw out a weak lineup next week. But for me, it's the mental strength. Has that improved? Are we able to reduce those errors? Are we able to defend our errors? Are we more resilient on defense? Are we fitter? Because they're the things that let us down last year. We would have made the finals had we not lost 5 or 6, 7 games by less than a
score.
a try. So have we fixed those things? That's my biggest area of focus is the mental strength.
Just to clarify a couple of things, on Cloud Cuckoo Land, Kempy's sitting thinking that SJ is going to get an SOS. I think there's more chance you and me get an SOS. Is there anything in that at all? Is there even the remotest possibility that could happen?
I think you would have to see like 4 injuries or 5 injuries before that happens, right? Because Luke Hanson can play halfback, and Webby's talked him up as being ready. We'll get to see Jet Cleary. And then you've got 4 halves. Very few other clubs in the competition have those 4 halves of that level. Their top 1 or 2 guys will be better than us, but their backups won't be as good as our backups. So I think that's La La Land.
Can't wait tonight, mate. Here we go, eh? Here we go. It just seems like it's such a long time to wait. But then once the season starts, of course, hell no. It's we're into it. March, the 2nd it is, I think, 2nd that we play the Raiders in Vegas and kicks it all off. But tonight is when preseason starts. You'll be watching, of course. You're excited.
I was meant to bloody work tonight, and I was going to miss the first 30 minutes live, but they cancelled on me, so I'm going to be there live. I'm just so. It's hard to describe. Like every day, it's like getting closer to Christmas. And for a creator like me, I always try to maintain the momentum for fans over the off season. I noticed that the Warriors made an active effort not to do a lot of social media this year. So, you're making stuff up for so long, and that's tiring. And, a couple of my crazy Warrior mates and we will just talk for hours about different scenarios to finally not be talking in theory.
That's it. Talking stops.
It's reality.
It's reality tonight.
I can't wait. But on that note, man, don't forget, I want the fans to really think next week is our first home game. It's at FMG Stadium on the 15th, Saturday, 3:30 kickoff. So anyone in Auckland can get there. It's only an hour's drive. We sold out every home game last season. Imagine starting our season off by selling out a home game, making a real cauldron for these bloody Storms to come over. It's only a trial, but make it uncomfortable for them. So cheap tickets out there. I'm actually giving away a bunch and a chance to win a VIP package. So check out any of my social media platforms, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, for a chance to be there for free. But I encourage fans to get there. Let's kick this season off with a big home game, not just, it's only a trial.
Like, share, follow, leave a comment, The Warriorholic, and also here on the DSPN. Appreciate you, mate.
Awesome.
DSPN.